And we are live. Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to She Built It, Boss Lady Chronicles. I am Sharita Gaskins Tillett. I am your host. And this is the show where we feature ordinary women who have owned their power to transform their lives. And so I am super excited about tonight's guest, like I am every week. But we're going to give a few minutes for folks to come in while we're waiting. If you are watching us live, please say hi in the comments. Tell us where you're watching us from and put your questions in the comments. We're happy to answer questions. If you're watching the replay, hashtag replay. And I would still ask that you put your questions in the comments. And I will do my best to get them to our guests and get them answered for you. And then, just by way of reminder, registration is still open for a weekend for me, the Premier Wellness Experience for Professional Women, taking place in Jamaica, June 20th to the 24th. There are a few spots remaining. I would love to host you. It is going to be an amazing, transformative experience, and you don't want to miss it. So, let me introduce tonight's guests. Tonight, I have joining me Terise Lang. Terise is a holistic wellness coach, speaker, and writer who elevates the quality of life for professional women 40 plus by nurturing them to recognize and celebrate their unique beauty, vitality, and power. Her interest in caring for both mind and body began in her teenage years when she took classes in vegetarianism, dance, and yoga, and later as an adult when she studied and practiced radiation therapy technology, holistic nutrition, Jungian and behavioral psychology as part of a minor, and disciplines like Pilates, aerobics, jogging, and Tai Chi. For about 20 years, she attended in person or virtual courses from transformational thinkers like Werner Erhard, Marianne Williamson, Marissa, I can't get this one, Murgatroyd, Mary Morrissey, Nick Orter, John Assaraf, and Graham Nichols. Not to mention hours of reading books recommended by thought leaders like Oprah Winfrey. With regard to what distinguishes her approach, Terise always includes the social and physical factors in one's overall health, like the impact of racism or whether a mold assessment has been performed on someone's house. The mind is important, but so is the environment the mind dwells within. Welcome, Terise.
Thank you, Sharita. Thank you very much. That's a very nice intro. And where would you like me to start? I can just talk about what I do as
Well,
a.
Well,
Go ahead.
actually, I usually like to start with the backstory because, I know some of your backstory and a lot of your backstory was not in your bio. And so I'd like to start from where you were and how you got to where you are now, because it's my understanding you spent some time in corporate America, right?
I spent
Yeah.
a
Tell us,
long time in
yeah,
corporate America.
tell us about your time in corporate America, your background, and then how you came to make this transition.
Okay, sure. I worked in several different industries in the public and private sectors. I worked in insurance and, of course, radiation therapy technology. I worked in the airlines as a flight service manager. I was an insurance adjuster for the state of Colorado. So basically, whatever I had to learn to do to, keep food on the table and so forth,
Yes.
I learned. And I was a, property casualty insurance adjuster as well. And while, yeah, I'm glad that I was able to pay the bills and so forth. I always wanted to have a business of my own first. And then I wanted it to be something it had to be ethical and it had to serve the Lord in some way. Now, I'm not a minister or anything like that, but I
Okay.
just wanted it to be something that would do people good, right? Nothing that would harm
Sure.
anyone. Absolutely. And so I knew eventually I was going to go ahead and start a business. Well, then, I was still working and I was getting close. I was getting close to the point where I could do early retirement. And then, COVID hit and my company said, "You're out now." So I had to,
Ah, okay.
yes, I had to immediately shift and I'm going, well, guess it's time to start my business. and the business was based on, I came home one day, and when I saw the negative images, the negative media, and black women crying and all this stuff, I said, you know what, people dying too early from diseases they really shouldn't, and not taking care of themselves, and not being able to take care of themselves because they didn't have the information. I said, you know what, I've got to share what I know, things that have helped me physically, mentally, so forth, helped people that I've talked to. When I was in corporate America, I always had people calling, what do you do for this and that's natural. I'm not a
Yeah.
doctor, so I can't diagnose, treat, cure, prevent disease. But I always told them things that worked. And it was also a lot of life coaching when they would ask me about things. And, I was told, gee, you're wise. And I said, you know where I get that wisdom from? Making my own mistakes. you know I'd love to say, well, I'm just so special. No, I'm just an ordinary person with an extraordinary passion to make a difference. So that's basically that part of the story. And what was the rest of your question,
Well,
Dr.
actually,
Sharita?
I have a follow-up question based on some of the information that you gave. So you talked about being let go during COVID. So tell me, had you already done your own coaching work ahead of time? Because for some people that would have been a devastating blow, and they wouldn't have responded to it in the way that you did. Like, okay, it's time to start my business. And, instead they would have gone to bed, pulled the covers over their head, and stayed there for a time. So, tell me what gave you that level of resiliency.
um, the interest in whole body wellness, mind body wellness, from the time I was a teenager. And yes, I was doing my own things, the exercise, the meditation, different kinds of meditation, breathing exercises, all that stuff that I tell other people to do, I do. And that's why I
Mhm.
know it works. Would I have been able to bounce back like that? I do not think so. I think it would have been far more difficult. And since I always work on the four wellness pillars of mind, body, soul, and heart, I always include prayer. I believe that if you have a belief in a higher power, that can help you bounce back too, because it's not just you that has to take care of things when stuff hits you, because life's going to happen, right? But
Right,
you got to back up. You're right. I
right,
mean, we're
right.
promised a guardian angel, and we know that the Lord is always there. And I'm like, well, you know here it is. I'm going to do this, and I know I'm not doing this alone. And yeah, it was difficult, but it wasn't, I wasn't blindsided, because to tell you the truth, you know, everybody was doing, all these companies. It was like,
Yeah,
hearing the dominoes fall.
yeah,
So I said, well, am I going to be dumb and not make any preparations? I had been saving money for quite a while, everything that I could. Not that I was making a lot of money. When that last job I had was the most I had ever made, but I was salting it away because I saw people, they got rid of this person, that person, the other person.
yeah,
And then COVID became a vehicle by which they could say, well, it's all because of COVID, whatever,
yeah,
but I was fortunate, so that, because you need at least that 6 month cushion,
yes,
to financial cushion, so that don't get dumped out of your house or apartment or whatever. And
right.
that is also a part of wellness, preparing for things. Can you prepare for everything? No. But given the strength of having everything else in place, and that's why I'm always saying holistic, you need to think about everything, including even your house, and including, what you put in your body, what you put in your mind. If you watch negative and horrible stuff all the time, and they say, well, that's just, movies, it does something to your mind, because your mind doesn't know the difference, right?
Right,
So,
right.
so anyway, so
Absolutely.
go ahead.
So I feel like what I hear you saying is that you built a foundation of wellness for yourself. And that in having that foundation of wellness, it gave you when life comes at you, because we know that stress is going to come, because really problems, that it all translates to stress, right? And so we know that
Yeah.
stressors are going to come. But when you have that foundation of wellness, you have a reserve almost that prepares you to deal with it. You have a toolbox that you can use. Wherein if you have not built that foundation, you
Yeah.
don't have that same, level of elasticity. Like for instance, you talked about having your savings, and you're right, financial wellness is a huge part of wellness. Financial health, because
Yeah.
money is a big stressor. If you don't have enough of it, or you're worried about where your next meal is coming from, or whether or not they're going to come and
Yeah.
take your car, those are very real stressors.
Yeah, yeah, because I've even known, sadly, known people who had heart attacks over things like that because they're not minor issues; they're very important. And you're
Yeah.
absolutely right though about having that foundation built up. And I did. That's exactly what I did. I built the foundation, but it was just like for me, it's breathing. It's like every day. It's a lifestyle. It's not
Right.
like I get up and do life. It's
Yeah.
interwoven in my daily life.
So what do you say to your clients? What do you recommend for your clients to build that kind of like, what kind of activities? Walk us through a typical day or a typical week of what you would recommend to your clients who are looking to build that kind of foundation.
First thing I tell them so that they will stick with it is to start with things that are simple and doable that you can do every day. Don't try to climb the mountain in one leap. Only
Right. Yeah.
Superman gets to do that, right? What you want to, so I'll give them something that's like, okay, so today, let's say, you know, a woman is having trouble focusing. I said, well, how much do you focus on things? How aware are you of your surroundings or whatever? So I tell them, okay, today I want you to focus on when you're driving home. Notice how many red cars there are, you know and I
Hmm.
mean, I wanted to focus on her
Yeah.
driving too,
Yeah.
but how many of the red cars were there? And she said, I said that, after you said that, I've been noticing
You
all
saw
these
red
red
cars
cars.
everywhere, right?
Exactly, right. It's not that all of a sudden there were more red cars, but the awareness began to
Right.
happen.
Yes.
And that, plus pay attention, this is so important, to what your body is telling you. If
Mm,
you are exhausted, you need rest, you need
yes.
some sleep. And it's not lazy. Your body is telling you you need some sleep. Your cells have to regenerate, right? Your organs, in order to function, need a rest. Your heart, if your heart beats too fast all the time, because we only have so many heartbeats per lifetime, right? So you want to calm down when that happens. I tell them they can do very simple things to wind down so they can sleep, like listen to calming music and just breathe, just notice their breathing. Even before we
Mhm.
even get into the specific breathing techniques, just
Sure.
notice, just sit quietly, or if they're in bed, lie down quietly and notice your breathing. And when you start noticing things like that, it is amazing what it does for your mind and your ability to focus, actually. And of course, it's good for your body because you're paying attention to it and what it tells you.
Right. Okay, so now let's fast forward a little bit.
Mhm.
Left the job and decided to start the coaching.
Right.
Um, how did you go about that, and how's it going? Well, tell
Okay.
us what
Well,
you're doing.
well, I tell you, it has been a journey, but I'll get to that in a second. The first thing I had to do was make sure that I knew documentation wise and structure wise what kind of a business I wanted. Right? You have to,
Mhm.
what kind of a thing are you going to set up? Is it going to be a product based, service based? Is it going to be, do you have a partner already who's ready to go to business with you, or
Right.
is it going to be solo? And also the state regulations as far as how to establish a business. And in my, where I live, the county, uh, regulations. What do you have to pay? What kind of how's it going to affect your taxes? So you have to do your homework. You do have to do your homework. And of course, there's the marketing, Um, you get on here, they have so many resources now where you can find a lot of marketing data and just talking to people to find out what their pain points are, right? So all of that. To tell you the truth, I took a holistic view of
Okay.
the business setup, because you do have to know what you're doing to a certain extent. Do you have to have it all together and perfect before you start? No, because you'll never start it. I
Right.
guarantee you will never
Right.
start it. but you get these things into place, and uh yeah, so you just have to focus on what are the biggies, like, can I afford to do this, what's it going to cost me, and find out about tools. And how do you do that? A lot of times you network, you ask people. You know somebody with the business, say, I'd like to do such and such. What's the best calendar tool you recommend I start with? What about email service? What about, especially if I'm talking about an online business. Now, of course, it's a little
Right.
different if you are going to start some kind of a brick and mortar in a part of your house or something, and let's say sell soap, candles, whatever your business is. There's different structures. If it's like a cottage industry versus being online. If it's online, you got to start familiarizing yourself with the tools, and ask for the simple tools. Ask for the ones that are good to start with, because some of them are more advanced, and you don't want to get into where you have to try to learn coding and all that.
Right.
It'll
Right.
make it
Right.
twice as hard. Plus, if you can and you have people who can help you, get them to do the stuff that's not in your lane, right? I
Right.
mean, I I'm of course I'm perfect at everything. No, you know what I mean? I mean, if
Right.
accounting is not your thing, you don't like numbers, if or bookkeeping, I should say, at least for starting, or if somebody's very good at cybersecurity and things like that, then ask them and get that information so that you can protect if it's a based business, you want to protect your equipment. How do I do that? How do I make sure that I'm setting things up like with a VPN and a keystroke logger mask so people can't tell what I'm typing in, and you have to take care of your stuff and back up your files in case your system crashes and that kind of thing. So you might need to, enlist the help of people, consult with people, get a coach, a business coach if you have no idea where to start. But try to start small. Just first of all, what do I want to do? What's my passion? Who do I want to serve? Who's this going to help?
Yes.
And you know what I mean? Start with that, and just a basic structure, beginning paperwork. Don't try to be, you're not going to be AT&T in the
Right.
first week. It's not going to
Sure.
happen. Although some people do amazing things in a short period of time. I'm now my journey, my business right now it's not where I want it to be, but it's building slowly. And that's when I think one thing I have to tell you, some people, I mean, they take off like a rocket, right?
Hmm.
And people like me, it hasn't been that way, but it's slowly building. And sometimes you have to have the patience. You just have to say, look,
Yes.
it's going to happen when it's supposed to happen. And if you do, have a higher power, know that, maybe, you got to go by by God's timing, right? His
Right.
timing. And his timing he might be saying, no, you have to learn these other things. And they're not always business things.
Right.
You actually, in the process of having a business that transforms other people's lives, you in a way have to go through personal transformation, you
Oh
know.
no, I agree with you 300% there, that you have to develop yourself personally. And that was something that nobody ever really shared that. I'd never heard that about entrepreneurship until I jumped into it myself, and I realized you have to become another person, really. You have to upgrade your thinking and your habits and everything to be able to keep pace with what you're trying to do. And you were talking about things starting off slowly. I think of it as being like a seed principle, where you're planting seeds, and when you plant
Yeah,
a seed, you don't expect it to come out of the tree to come up overnight. It
right.
takes time. It takes the right environment, it takes the right nurture, and all of those kinds of things before the tree can grow. And I
Yeah.
look at at businesses and other kinds of changes that people are making the same way. But what I always tell my ladies at the retreats are, if you if you will succeed if you don't give up. The only way you fail is to stop. To stop trying altogether. So I applaud you for sticking with it, because it can be really discouraging when things are not going as planned, and you get tempted to look at what other people are doing, and how well other people are doing, and you wonder, why not me? What's wrong with me? But everybody's got to run their own race.
And that is very true. And another thing that came up for me was discipline. You will have to develop some discipline, right? Now, that doesn't mean that you can't give yourself a day off once in a while or something like that, but limit it. right? Because a day off can become a week off, can become a,
Right,
a
right.
month. And it's like, I don't really need to do this, which is, that's because you're afraid, right? You're going to fail, or that all your work is going nowhere. But that's not possible because you're learning the whole time. You are
Yes,
learning the whole time. And I can tell you right now, I know a whole lot than I did before I started. I'm talking about business wise. And
right,
even, keep up with your skills. Keep your skills up. If you're a writer, keep writing. If you're a public speaker, find opportunities to present at places. And if you are, whatever it is you're doing, take continuing education courses if you have to for whatever it is your field is in, because then that keeps you at the top of your game, and don't worry about whether, what someone else is doing and they're better. And another thing too is another little slippery little slope here, that when you keep talking about what it is you do and what's important, and you tell people things, some other people are going to be saying the same things. And you think, oh, well, why am I even bothering? Because there's only one you.
right.
And this is a
Yes,
hard one, because it's
yes,
very tempting to think, forget it, it's already been done and said. Not really, because I guarantee
right,
you, nobody's had my life, and I have not had anyone
right.
else's life. And you
Yes,
bring not just your skills and what you're saying, but those decades of life that you lived, you're
yes.
bringing that in, and that adds to your value. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about there.
Yeah, absolutely. The way one of my coaches puts it is, how many different types of bread are there in the bread aisle? How many different types of cereal are there in the cereal aisle? And so there's room for more. There's always room for more. In our society, we have this scarcity mindset, but really there is enough for everybody. There's enough to go around, and so you don't have to be afraid. And I actually heard someone say this recently, that your people hear your voice. And so the woman gave an example. She had was attending some kind of event that where the Dalai Lama spoke. And she was talking to another woman who was at that event and had heard the same thing the Dalai Lama said. And she kind of paraphrased it for the woman, and the woman's like, wow, that's so amazing. I can't believe that. And she said, well, I didn't say it. I'm just telling you what he said. And she said, but I didn't hear that when he said it. So you have the Dalai Lama saying something that this woman, could not hear, but she could hear it the way that it was presented by the other woman. And so I thought that was really profound, that your people can hear you, that they're looking for your voice and waiting for it to be there.
Yeah, and that is brilliant too. And it reminds me of when I worked at the airport, and they would have announcements in two different voices, a male voice and a female voice, because some people respond better to one and some to others. So
Mhm.
literally, we
Wow.
talk about people. Yeah, interesting, isn't it?
Well,
And
it just goes back to the brain and how how it works and how much we don't understand about how it works.
yeah. It's a fascinating. I mean, the between space, the ocean, and the mind, they all fascinate me, because we're still finding out about all of those. So,
Yes.
yeah.
So tell us about your business. Who do you help and what kind of services do you provide?
Okay, I am definitely focusing on empowering professional women 40 plus. They're usually, they're pretty accomplished, and they take care of, the boss, the business, the baby, the house, the shopping, the chores, the da 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 da. And they forget this person. They
Yes.
forget themselves. And then even when they do something, it's like, yeah, it's nice to get your nails done, stuff like that. It's nice to get pampered once in a while, but you have to take care of the whole person. Taking care of your nails is going to make you look, it's going to make you look nice and polished.
Yes.
But are you taking care of your heart? What about your relationships? How are those going? Are you taking care of how you think about yourself and your life? Because you should be able to love that person in the mirror, really embrace that person, whether or not she's got her makeup on and everything's all
Yes.
perfect, right? Um, so and then the soul part, of course, is your spiritual part. That is, if you leave out mind, body, soul, or heart, that means you also have to watch what you eat, drink water, all those things that they talk about. Why do they talk about them? Because they work and they make a difference.
Yes.
But if you leave any of those out, then there's going to be a gap and there's going to be imbalances, and it shows up mentally, shows up physically. And why go through that when if you just take you have to if you're busy, you can schedule everything else. You need to schedule you time.
Right.
And what the services I provide right now is basically one-on-one coaching, and I also have on Thursday mornings, 11:30 a.m. Eastern, I have my LinkedIn audio called Gather at the Hearth. And that's exactly what it is. It's professional women coming together to support each other, inform each other, encourage, motivate. Because there's not a lot of forums there. People might talk about business things, right? Like, how to get financing for a project or something. But what about if there's something else going on where it's hard for them to even think about that, and there's no one they can really talk to, and it's
Right.
done, and it's done in a safe, unrecorded space. And I do that every week, 11:30 a.m. They can just come in. They can also talk about what it is they're doing, or what events are coming up, uh, and they can talk about what they need support on, prayer about. I mean, there's been a whole bunch of things. I've recently lost a couple of family members, and I was in there asking for prayer. You know, so whatever it is, and I don't. It's not a prayer session, but I just tell
Right.
people
Right.
add it to your prayer list. Whatever way you do that, and so that it's a safe space so they can come together. It's like, yeah, let's just talk about stuff and real issues. People having trouble with menopause, people having problems with they can't sleep well at night, they're worried about their kids, or there's a whole, right, we could talk about 100
Sure.
different topics. And or just that the world seems to be a mess, which it really
Yeah.
does look like, but how not to get caught up in it, but just to
Yes.
contribute to it in the way that you can, in your corner of the world. How can you make a difference in one person's life that day? And then that way you don't have the stress of trying, you're not Atlas trying to hold the whole planet
Right.
up. Right. So
Yeah, so you mentioned, well, this kind of reminds me of a good point about the importance of community, and because it sounds like that's what you're really providing is a community, a place where women can come and kind of let their hair down and, and find validation and camaraderie and support and other things. How important is it that we have community?
it's really vital. I have met some women who say, I'm strong. I can handle things. It doesn't mean you're not strong. It doesn't mean you're not capable. It means you're smart enough to know that
Yes,
nobody does this alone. No, no man is an island. You've heard that
yes,
John Donne's
yes,
expression. Nobody does this life alone. Even if you live in a kind of isolated area, once in a while you have to have contact. I mean, you have to have that human interaction. And when someone is there who kind of understands, right? Other women
yes.
who understand, and they say, I've been through this, and can give you some tips, or
Right, that's the
right?
other thing.
That's the
Yeah,
thing, sharing the information, sharing the tips, or just saying, hey, I went through that. It's going to be okay. If I could get through it, you can get through it. So that it is
yeah,
vital just to know you're not alone. Because yes, we have God, but we also need that human interaction. How do we know? Because Adam needed a companion, right?
right,
Right?
right,
So that's it's we are social animals. We are. It doesn't mean you have to be an extrovert, but we
right,
do we
right.
need each we you need that. And I'll often say you need that one person who has your back, who you can count on, you can trust, you can talk to. And that's why when you have a community of people coming together, and the ground rule, nobody jumps on anybody. We can disagree, we can debate, but no one ever feels like they've been attacked, and they can just talk, and
Yeah.
that can make a difference.
That's important. That I think that's very important that you have that like I said, that community and that fellowship. And you talked about it, in terms of getting support when you're going through something um, less than ideal. But it works the other way too. I find that when I'm in a community of women who are really excelling, it makes me want to excel. you rise to the level of the community. And so, surrounding yourself with people who are doing positive things, that will support you through trials, but also, in positive times, and inspire you and hold you accountable for, reaching your goals.
Absolutely. And it does. It lifts the entire group when someone comes in with good news. Guess what? I just, we had a lady the other day who got a small role in a film, and she had been trying and trying and trying, and that worked for her. We had another lady who oh, her I forget who it was. Um I think one of her family members was ill, and they did get better, So these are the
Mm.
things that we want to hear about. Another lady got a promotion. And so, it doesn't mean that it happens all the time instantly and everything's perfect. But when you hear those things, it's like, wow, here she didn't know what was going to happen. She was scared, she was upset, and look what she did.
Yeah.
So, it's that message of it's going to be okay. You're not alone. You have support, right? Because we don't
Yes.
hear about that enough. When you look on TV and you see the fingernails flying in the air and the wig pieces and people screaming at each other. We don't
Right.
treat it. We don't interact that way, right? What
Right.
we
Right.
really are about being a community. We would not have survived so many things had we not come together as a community, whether it's a very
Right.
small one or a large one. So it's about survival, but it's also about quality of life, not just surviving. Rocks
Yes.
survive.
Right.
Rocks
Right.
exist, but it's quality of life. What about really happy moments and feeling, this is great. I'm among trusted friends. I
Right.
can breathe. That kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, we want everybody, well, everybody, in my opinion, should want to thrive, should want to, live lives of abundance where they have more than enough, everything that they need, and that they're walking and living and working in their purpose. You talked about each of us being created uniquely. And I always say we were created on purpose for a purpose, and nobody else has your purpose but you. And the world needs you. The world needs your voice. The world needs your contributions. The world is incomplete without you.
Absolutely. And I'm always quoting this again and again. So put up with me, Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans
Yes,
I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans for hope and a future.
yes,
That tells you right there, right? So that's
yes,
why you have to
absolutely.
keep going. That's why you have to keep going. And do I wish I had a crystal ball, that would tell me
Yeah,
exactly, who to interact with and what's going to happen? No, nobody does, but that there's an overall plan for you as one person. There's only one you. That's why life is so precious. There's only one
yes,
of each of us,
absolutely.
whether we're even when we have twins or whatever, it doesn't matter. Identical twins, each one is an individual. So
Yes. Well, Therese, you and I could talk probably like the rest of the night because we're kindred spirits. We, serve kind of the same population and have a lot of the same philosophies. But we can't talk all night. So
no,
tell folks where they can find you and how they can work with you if they're interested.
the quickest way is just to go to LinkedIn, look me up on LinkedIn. It's HTTPS, LinkedIn /IN/ Terise Lang. And look under my profile. There's a link right there for a wellness chat. And we could just have a brief discussion about what you want to accomplish. And sometimes people just want to talk for a minute, or even tell me, like one lady said, because she was reading my content and she said, I tried a couple of things and it's worked, so
Mm,
it's just to get that conversation started, so that you can know who I am more. And I have different, I can send you a link if you want to talk a little bit more and get better acquainted and see if there's something that I can do to increase your emotional wellness, your health, your overall health, because it is all connected. And just to give you a little bit of a rah-rah. It's like, you're doing great. Keep on with what you're doing. This lady said she needs to lose 75 pounds. I said it starts with the first pound.
yeah.
It starts, right. She needs to start exercising, and she was, trying to walk. I said, walk 1 block. I mean, you consult with your doctor, of course. Walk a
Yes.
block. Come back next time. Walk 2, 3. You build up, and it is amazing. The human body is very God constructed us very well,
Yes.
and we are our bodies are resilient, just like our minds are, and we can bounce back, and we can build up strength and emotional strength, and you can't do it overnight, but it can happen. All of it can happen. And so I wish you the best. God bless everyone who is really looking into to taking care of the instrument that they were given. Right? We have one issued per life, I like to say.
Yes, yes.
Right.
And so I always like to end kind of on in a similar vein. And so if there was one piece of advice, if there's a woman, a professional woman who's feeling maybe tired and overwhelmed, and she's looking to up level her wellness, what's the single best thing you recommend she do?
You can always start by drinking more water.
Yes,
We're about 75% water. Drink more water, and your energy will go up, your digestion will improve, your skin will get more clarity. You can think better, you may sleep better. Just that one thing. Just drink more water. Just try it. It's like if you usually do just a couple of glasses, double it. Drink 4 glasses if you don't want to do the whole 8 every day. And
right.
just
Work your
start
way up.
that. Really, and work your way up, and just start drinking more water. That one thing. That's something everyone can do. It's affordable, right? And you just do it just naturally, as especially in, at least here, very hot weather. And you're
Yeah.
going to need more of the hydration, and your cells will thank you.
Yes.
And yeah, and you really do. You start to feel better. So
Well,
that's where I
you
want
guys heard it. Drink more water. That's
to.
the single best thing you can do. And I actually agree with that. I tell
Yeah,
people all the time we're about 70% water. So you need your
yeah,
water.
absolutely.
So that's it for tonight, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. If you want to take your wellness to the next level, again, registration is open for A Weekend for Me, the premier wellness experience for professional women in Jamaica. And it really is going to be a special time. It's time for you to step off of the treadmill, the hamster wheel that you stay on, get off autopilot, and just spend 4 days of concentrated me time, time where you can focus on what's going well in your life, maybe what's not working as well. What are your hopes and your dreams? Reconnect with yourself. Look at your priorities. Are the priorities that you have today in alignment with the way you're spending your time? Because I think so much of our frustration and our dissatisfaction with our lives come from the fact that we're spending so much time on things that we don't really care about, that don't matter so much to us. I actually heard somebody today in some kind of reel, ranting really about how he was such a terrible student because he didn't like school. And that when he does his business, it's like um, it's like a joy to him. It's almost like a treat, and he's encouraging people to do things that really light them up. And he gave the example. He said, if you're doing something, people talk about having good work life balance, but they're working 40 hours a week. He's like, so you're spending 40 hours doing something you hate, and if that's you, that's a problem. And so I invite you to join us for A Weekend for Me, so we can start looking at some of the ways that you can really, make your life align with your priorities and your dreams and your goals. Because again, as Teresa and I talked about tonight, you only get one precious life, and you want to enjoy it. You want to have health and wealth and abundance. So that's it for tonight. If you're interested in registering, www.aweekendforme.com. You can also send me a DM. I'm happy to get on a Zoom call with you or anything like that. But I would love to have you join us. So that's it for tonight. We will see you all next week. Thank you again, Therese, for everything. We appreciate you
You're
coming and
welcome.
sharing your gifts with us. Have a great evening.
You too.